see the effects of human activities to the environment. So the basic threats that we face in our environment are pollution. The topmost will be pollution. So you can find vehicles emitting out pollution, causes air pollution, and it leads to lung disorders, even skin infections in human. And we have different water pollution, the pesticides or the effluents from the industries or the dyes from the industries mixed with the water, and that water cannot be consumed, so that causes water pollution. And dumping the waste, garbage, so all those causes land pollution. So all the very important threat we face is the pollution, which has to be minimized. So say for example, when you take the land waste, the land is filled with two kind of waste. One is the degradable waste, the biodegradable waste. The other is the non-biodegradable waste. So biodegradable waste are waste like the kitchen waste, domestic waste, that can be easily decomposed. I told you decomposers are the microbes that are naturally present in the soil that will convert the complex substances into simpler ones. Say for example, when a leaf dries and falls off, or when a flower dries and falls off, what will happen after 2 or 3 days? The leaves or the flower will slowly decompose, and that turns as the humus or the natural manure, so which will enhance the growth of a plant. So decomposers plays a major role. Similarly, when an animal is dead, what will happen after 2 to 3 days when it is buried in the soil? You can find slowly the animal getting putrefied, which means it gets decomposed, and finally it turns into manure. So biodegradable waste are certain waste that can be easily broken down into simpler forms by the action of microbes. But still, we need to care biodegradable waste also, because these days we find dumping all the waste in one environment. So what will happen, even if it is a biodegradable waste, when it is dumped like anything, the decomposers will take much time to decompose, and within the time period it can also cause diseases and illness. Okay. And coming to the non-biodegradable waste. So what are non-biodegradable, children? These are plastics. So though we are trying to minimize plastics, but it is out of control, but it is our responsibility to minimize the usage of plastics. So these plastics cannot be decomposed by microbes, and it takes millions of years to decompose. And it takes millions of years, but still it will remain as such. But nowadays we can find few initiatives like microplastics are used, which can be degraded to some extent by the microbes or some other action. So the non-biodegradable waste are very it is polluting the environment, that has to be minimized. Say for example, we eat a chocolate wrapper and we throw it on the soil. What will happen? That chocolate wrapper will remain for a long time, and when the rain falls, what will happen? That wrapper will not allow the rain to pass through. So when the rain doesn't sink inside, what will happen? The groundwater table cannot be maintained. This is how plastics clog the way. Even we find during rainy season, we find water stagnant all over places. It is all because of we don't have a proper draining system. So what is happening there? All the plastics that we throw are dumped on the layers, which is not allowing the water to sink inside. That is why we find it difficult during winter season, and also during summer season we don't find water, enough sufficient water. We also find scarcity of water. This is all because of the waste that we dump. So what are the measures that we can take for is, for biodegradable waste we can use a method called compost. So this compost is an effective method. So what we do is, we can make a pit. The pit will be filled with a layer of soil. Then you can add the waste, all the domestic waste that we use, kitchen waste or any waste. Again it has to be laid with soil. Again you can make waste. So this waste has to be, it has to be repeatedly turned. So every week or once in 2 days you can turn it repeatedly. So what will happen? The soil carrying microbes will eat all the waste and they decompose into manure. So this manure can be used for growing plants. So the biodegradable waste can be used by this method. That benefits us in different ways. Similarly, we can also use earthworm to it. So when you add earthworm to it, you call this method as vermicomposting. So these are effective methods to degrade biodegradable waste. And we also use a machine called incineration. This incineration is a machine that burns out all the hospital waste, especially because when a patient is suffering from a severe contagious disease, which means the disease spreads from one individual to the other. So what they do is, their clothes and the bed they use, all those can be, or the utensils they use, the syringes, all the material, hospital equipments they use for a particular patient, that can be burned in this incinerators without emitting any pollution. So it turns all the waste into ashes. So we receive only trace amount of ash without emitting any pollution. So this is also a good method that avoids environmental hazards. Coming to non-biodegradable waste. So non-biodegradable waste, we don't have any measures, but still we can follow the 4R concept. So what are the 4R concept? You can reduce, we can reuse, we can recycle, recover, and one more R also is added, regenerate. So all these R's can be followed in order to minimize biodegradable waste. So like instead of using plastic cups, these days we find paper cups, usage of paper cups, but even that paper cups has to be disposed properly. If it is thrown or dumped in one place, what will happen? Again, the decomposers will find it difficult to decompose the waste and it takes much time. That can also cause health hazards. So it is our responsibility to maintain our environment hazard free or pollution free. Okay. And the second method is global warming. So what will happen? Due to, I told you, the vehicles emits out pollution. Not only vehicles, the electronic gadgets that we use, AC that we use, even fridge, all these emit certain gases. Those gases are called greenhouse gases. So let us see in detail. So greenhouse gases are gases that are emitted out from vehicles or industry. Say for example, gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, CFC. CFC is chlorofluorocarbon. Chlorofluorocarbon. This gas is emitted from refrigerators as well as from air conditions. And we have methane. Methane is from drainage. Nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide is all from the industrial effluents. So carbon dioxide is the smoke that we get. And even carbon monoxide, when we burn anything, we get this. So all these gases are called greenhouse gases. So we call these as greenhouse gases. So what will happen? These gases, when they are dumped in the environment, that obviously increases the temperature. One reason. The other reason, these gases will hit our ozone. So what is ozone? I think you could have heard this word called ozone, but what is ozone? Ozone is a molecule of 3 atoms of oxygen. So the formula for ozone is O3. So what will happen? These substances, you call them as greenhouse gases, are the ozone depleting substances. So you call them as ozone depleting substances. especially the CFC, I said chlorofluorocarbon, which is emitted from refrigerators or AC, even fire extinguishers that we use for safety that carried CFC. I'll tell you what happened. So the chlorine molecule in the CFC will split the O3 into compounds. So what will happen? This O3 will be turning into O2, and again this turns into simple molecule, single oxygen molecule. So what happened? This cannot be used for human consumption. So it is reducing the oxygen level. At the same time, if it is splitting out the O3 molecule. So what happened? This ozone, it is called as the deadly poison. Though it is called as the deadly poison, this ozone acts as a shield. Why? Because the sun emits harmful rays. So this ozone protects us from the harmful rays. That is why it also acts as a shield. Though it is poisonous to human, it is forming a shield. So what will happen? I told you these ozone depleting substances, especially chlorine, compound like chlorine. So this chlorine will go split the molecules. So split the O3 into O2 and O, oxygen molecules separately. So what will happen? The rays from the sun can easily fall down. So you can find gaps here. So those gaps are called ozone hole. And you can find the layer, breaking. So you call that as ozone depletion. So when ozone depletion takes place, all the harmful rays from the sun will fall directly onto the earth, that causes skin cancer, skin irritation and all other health effects. So it is very important to minimize the usage of all these ozone depleting substances and the greenhouse gases. So as a result of this, the temperature of the environment, the temperature keeps on increasing. So you call that as global warming. And also you can find these gases mixing up together, and they also fall as acid rain. So these are the threats faced by the environment due to human activity. So what are the measures that we can take? The first is minimize. So we need to minimize and control pollution, and we need to take care of using all unwanted substances that pollutes the environment. And the government has initiated certain protocols, like the UNEP given two protocols. One is the Montreal Protocol, the other is the Helsinki Protocol. The Montreal Protocol is to use instead of CFC, some other alternative can be used in fire extinguishers, because fire extinguishers are life-saving. So which uses CFC, which is highly poisonous. So what the Montreal Protocol state is, Montreal. So the Montreal Protocol is for to make an alternate for CFC. Instead of CFC, some other material can be used in fire extinguisher, was announced. But later, again, another protocol called the Helsinki Protocol, this declared total arrest or total banning of CFC in fire extinguishers. So these days you can find CFC free fire extinguisher. Why? Because this makes the ozone depletion in a higher rate. So it is our responsibility to initiate, to protect our environment. Any doubts, student?